And we are live. Welcome, mystery and thriller fans. I'm your on-air host, Sara DiVello, and I'm so excited to welcome to the show tonight New York Times best-selling author William Kent Krueger, here to give us the inside scoop on his brand new red-hot book, Fox Creek. William Kent Krueger, welcome to Mystery and Thriller Mavens. Tell us about Fox Creek.
Well, it's a pleasure to be with you today, Sara. Thank you so much for the invitation. Thanks for having me. Fox
Yay.
Creek. So Fox Creek is number 19 in my Cork O'Connor series. It is a contemporary setting in this story. For those who have followed my Cork O'Connor series, they may remember that the last book in the series was a prequel to the Cork O'Connor series. It took place in the 1960s and followed Cork as an adolescent, but we bring back Cork into the present in Fox Creek in what turns out to be a thrilling race through the Great North Woods.
Ooh, a thrilling race through the great North Woods, and book number 19 in the Cork O'Connor series. We are so excited to get into all the delicious details, and I have some super exciting news, which is that this is the #1 most reserved book in libraries across America. Congratulations, Kent.
Thank you.
And I want to talk about all about it. But first, I just want to welcome everyone who's watching. So we're broadcasting live to 6 destinations across Facebook and YouTube. If you've been here before, you know the drill. And if you're new, here's the drill. Every Monday for hashtag Mystery Monday, I give you my handpicked featured authors, and you get to ask them anything. So ask Kent about his writing practice, his journey into the Ojibwe culture, his relationship to the woods, to nature, to spirit. We have so much to talk about. Let's get right into it. Paul, welcome to the conversation, saying, hello, Kent. I cannot wait to receive the book. I pre-ordered it months ago. Fantastic. Well, it'll get shipped out to you tomorrow, Paul.
Well, I know, Paul. Thanks so much, Paul. I appreciate that.
Yay, Paul. Anissa, welcome to the conversation, saying, hello, Sara and Kent. She is so excited to read Fox Creek. Anissa, tell us what you're excited about. Is this your first Cork O'Connor book? Is this your 19th? Give us the scoop. Sharon, welcome. She says hi from Minnesota. Sharon, we have your fellow Minnesotan here with Kent, ready to give us the scoop. Always great to see your name pop up. Margaret Pinard watching live from the Pacific Northwest, saying first Dirt Creek, now Fox Creek. She is liking the natural environment trend. Absolutely, Margaret. We're working our way through the creeks of the world. Julie, welcome to the conversation, saying, I really loved this book. I look forward to reading more books by Mr. Krueger because this was my very first one. Isn't that amazing? Some people are joining us for the 19th. Some are joining us for the first. Ken, do you think that Julie should go back and work her way through book 1, or can you pick it up anywhere in the middle? What are your thoughts on this?
Well, any author of a long-running series understands that a reader may come to your work in the 12th, the 14th, the 19th book in the series. And so you have to make sure every story stands alone. You can't rely on a reader's understanding of the history involved in the characters for the story to work. So, if you came to Fox Creek and it was the first book you read in my series, and if you liked it, then what I would recommend is that you go back and you begin at the beginning. The 19 books in the series span 15 years in the lives of the characters. So across the 19 books in the series, we have seen Cork age from about 40 years of age to 55. His children, who were quite young when I began the series, are now adults with lives of their own. So it's just a richer experience if you go back then and pick up the series from the beginning and work through it in order if you can. Not necessary. It's just a richer experience that way.
Fabulous. Well, Julie, thanks so much for tuning in and joining us. Kent, thank you for the inside scoop. Margaret Pinard saying, hooray for libraries. I love libraries. Me too. Yay. And she's saying, WKK is writing them faster than I can keep up with. Yes, William Kent Krueger, you are a fast writer. So let's talk about your writing practice. Do you sit down every day at the same time? Do you write for a certain number of hours, a certain number of words? Do you take lots of breaks? Do you only write when the spirit moves you? What's it like?
Do you know, if you only wrote when the spirit moved you, you'd never meet your deadlines. I am very disciplined in my approach. I always have been. I write 7 days a week. Typically, I begin about 6 o'clock in the morning, and I'll write for 2 or 3 hours in the morning every day, which allows me to make sure that I meet my deadlines. But, more important than that, Sarah, is that it keeps me connected with the energy of a project. It's just much easier every morning to pick up where I left off, without a lot of time intervening, without losing that energy.
So 7 days a week, no days off. So not even Christmas, not your birthday, 0 to 365. You're not missing a day.
Well, I'm going to say yes to that, but there are probably exceptions.
Okay, so you're at your desk at 6 a.m. and then do you write for those 2 or 3 hours until you get a certain number of words down, or is it a number of hours, or it's just when you're done, you just can't give any more? When do you know you're done?
Well, I found that about 3 hours taps me creatively. If I go beyond that, then I risk having the writing feel strained. So 2 to 3 hours a day works very nicely for me, and that allows me then to do the work of being a writer the rest of the time. Do all of the things, the promotion, the communications, the responding to notes that I get from readers. So it works for me that way.
Fabulous. Thanks for the sneak peek into the WKK writing process. Melissa Watson joining us live from Australia saying, "Good day, Sarah and Kent." Good day to you, Melissa.
Good day. Good day, Melissa. I love
Kathy,
this.
yay. Kathy saying, "This is a new to me series." Fabulous. Kathy joining us on book 19. Julie also joining us on book 19. Kathy, always fabulous to see your name pop up. And Kathy, I noticed when you join us, you like to really talk about the spiritual practice of writing too. So we want to get into that? Sharon saying, "I will be seeing Kent on Wednesday in Stillwater." So Kent, tell us about the Stillwater event.
There is a bookstore in Stillwater, Valley Booksellers, Stillwater, Minnesota, which is about 15 or so miles east of the Twin Cities, right on the very beautiful St. Croix River. And they every month do what they call the Totally Criminal Cocktail Hour. They always invite a mystery author to entertain, and I will be their Totally Criminal Cocktail Hour guest on Wednesday. I always look forward to that event.
Do you get to pick the cocktail?
Let's see. I typically drink wine, and mostly what is served there is wine. But wine goes so well with books.
Wine really does go so well with books. I love that it is called the Totally Criminal Cocktail Hour. How fun is that? I I like this. I like this idea. Margaret saying she just read The Firekeeper's Daughter. It's quite a different point of view, but also a fascinating Ojibwe story. And she says she got her first Cork O'Connor book on her to be read pile. Fantastic. Margaret, let us know what you think about it.
Please do.
Helen saying, "Hi from New Zealand. I have loved reading from the start and I can't wait for it to drop." Welcome, Helen, to the conversation. Margaret has a question. She says, "Kent, do you have a private moment or history for one of your characters that isn't in any book, but happens? Love."
Yeah, in my series, Cork's son Stephen is across the course of his life has been preparing to become a Mite, member of the Grand Medicine Society, a healer. And readers have continued to ask me, "So is that the path you will keep him on?" And I know whether I'm going to keep him on that path, but you don't. But you'll find out in probably the next Cork O'Connor novel how Stephen decides his path is going to go.
Ooh, oh, William Ken Krueger, master of suspense, just reeling us in here. And I am here for it. Julie would like to know, do you feel, this is a great question. So New York Times bestseller, most reserved book in the country right now. Do you feel more pressure after you have had a bestseller? Tell us about that.
I don't know. I guess I have to say, honestly, I never have. I've just been overjoyed. It took me 10 books before I finally hit the New York Times bestseller list. And here's the story when it occurred. That was a book called Vermilion Drift. And when I got the call from my agent, or actually it was from my editor at Simon & Schuster, I was down doing my father's laundry. He was living with me. I was his primary caregiver at that point. And I was downstairs doing his laundry. I got the call from my editor. We were overjoyed. I finally had hit the New York Times bestseller list. We celebrated with one another. Then I hung up the phone and went back to doing my father's laundry, because that's what you do. That's life. You know, you just move on. I have to say, I haven't felt any pressure from my publisher to continue to be a New York Times bestseller. I know that that's probably an expectation that they have, but they don't pass along that pressure to me. I just sit down, Sarah, and write the best book I possibly can. And that's my job.
I love that. But so you're able to tune out any voices that say, "Oh, it's going to be hard to do that again," or whatever the scary thought might be. You're able to put that away.
I certainly do my best to put it away, because that's not going
Mm.
to do you any good when you're sitting down to write. That's only going to close the door in a lot of ways to your creative mind.
I love that. Anissa has a great question. She would like to know which book in the series has been the hardest to write and why. So you're 19 books in, Kent. Give us the scoop.
Probably the most difficult book for me to write was a book called Sulphur Springs. It's kind of in the middle of the series. And I took Cork out of the Great North Woods, where readers expect him to be, and I moved him down to Arizona, southern Arizona, because I wanted to talk about the refugees coming across our border from Mexico, Guatemala, the South American countries, and my perspective on what we needed to do to be I thought, more accepting of them. So I went down to do the research for the book in Arizona. I had a wonderful time. But writing that book, knowing the importance of those issues and the division in our nation regarding those issues, made it a difficult book to write. But it's also one of my favorites in the series.
So I love books that, in a non-preachy but very heartfelt way, weave in really important, meaty issues where there is that deeper meaning. That's important to me, and I always feel richer and more fed as a reader when books have that element. So when you were writing, as you said, about an issue that is divisive, that is in a hot button topic, did that ever get in your head where you were fearful of, I don't know what it would be, bad reviews, repercussions, a lack of a second book deal? Or were you still able to tune that out?
Well, I was certainly concerned. I certainly knew that it was going to cause kind of a furor out there. And for the first time in all of my time as a writer, I have had readers, as a result of that book, write to me and say they're never going to buy my books again because they believe differently than I do about how we address that issue. But I knew that was going to be the outcome. And one of the things I love is that we live in a democracy. We live in a country where you are free to make those decisions. And I am free to write about those issues that I believe are worth writing about and that are important to me.
Exactly, because at the end of the day, you're the one that has to look at yourself in the mirror, and you're the one that has to be able to sleep at night knowing that you have acted in accordance with your inner moral compass. I love that, and I really respect that. Thank you. Margaret would like to know, if you are that disciplined in your writing, how do you schedule in the editing, the correspondence, the marketing, etc.? Great question, Margaret. Let's get into it.
Well, if I write 2 or 3 hours a day, that still leaves me a lot of hours when I'm awake to do the rest of the work. So typically, this is how a day will go. I'll get up about 6 o'clock or so. I'll do 2 or 3 hours worth of writing. Then my wife and I will have breakfast together and do the New York Times crossword puzzle together.
Oh my God.
Then typically, I'll go do some exercise. I'll go to the wire. I'll go on a long bike ride. Come back, we'll have lunch, and then in the afternoon I do all of the business of being a writer, which is the correspondence, sometimes the editing, working on promotional materials, answering the emails that I get from readers, that kind of a thing. And it's a schedule that has worked for me for many, 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 many years now.
And I think that's interesting, because I think a lot of people may think that, I think two of the most surprising things about writing are that, number one, it takes a village. It's not just you and your muse and then the book appears. There's a literal army of people all
Yeah.
along the way to get it published. And also that it's not, that the business of writing is not just writing, that's just one spoke on that wheel of a writer's life. So I love hearing you talk about the business
Yeah,
of writing.
for me, it is the most important spoke, the writing, and the most enjoyable spoke. But once you become a published author, you realize you have lots of other responsibilities that go along with that.
Absolutely. Sharon, great question. She'd like to know, Kent, with a series, how do you know when the end of the story will be and when the next book will start? Is this all planned years in advance? So let's take that three-part question one at a time, knowing first when the end of the story will be.
I'm not quite sure what that question means when they know the story will
I think
be.
he
Does that
means
mean,
the end of the series. Like you started when Cork was 40. Now he's
okay,
55. How is he going to be 85? Are you just going to keep going? What's going on? He could be 105, like like Henry. We don't know.
like Henry? I don't think I'll have Cork around that long, but who knows? No, I promised myself a long time ago that when I lost the energy for the series, when I really wasn't able to invest my heart fully in one of the Cork O'Connor stories, I would step away from it. That hasn't occurred yet, and I'm not sure that I see in the foreseeable future that happening. I still have two more Cork O'Connor novels under contract. I am at work, at least in the thinking process for the next book in the series, and I have no idea what the book after that is going to be.
So that's interesting. So you have a contract for two more books. So we know we're going to at least see two more Cork books, and you already have the content in your head for those, or
For the first of the two contractual obligations, yes.
okay.
I'm going to be dealing with an issue that is very significant to the Native community, but I don't really want to talk about that at the moment. I'll talk about that closer to the time when that book is going to be published.
Great. Thank you for all the love on Facebook, you guys. Thanks for all the hearts and likes. This is we see you and I appreciate you. Margaret saying, what a moment to pinpoint. Absolutely, with when Cork went to Arizona and was dealing, we were addressing the immigration issue. Absolutely, so important. Anissa saying, thank you. Sharon saying, oh, she'd like to know, do you go to the Minnesota State Fair? They should have authors do book signings there. I hear that other fairs do. Great idea.
Yeah, there are the Minnesota State Fair. For those of you who are watching who know nothing about it, is
Maybe.
in terms of its attendance, is the largest state fair in the nation. In the 12 days of the state fair, 2 million, I think, like 2 million people move through the fairgrounds. So
Wow.
it's nuts. Actually, I live two blocks from the fairgrounds, and during those 12 days, life is hell in my neighborhood. But I go to the state fair often because the church to which I belong continues to have the longest continuous running concession at the state fair. 125 years, the Hamlin Church Dining Hall has been serving home cooked food to fair attendees. So I go and work in the kitchen as often as I can.
So are we talking funnel cakes and hot dogs, or what are
No,
we?
no, no, no. We're talking ham loaf. We're talking
Yum.
uh,
Okay.
Swedish meatballs with lingonberry sauce.
Ooh,
Yeah.
yum. I noticed that speaking of your church, I noticed that you dedicated your book to the congregation of the Hamline Church United Methodist, who have been your faithful companions on the spiritual journey we walk together. Let's talk about that, your relationship to spirit, your relationship to the woods, your relationship with your church. How does this all play in together in your writing practice?
Well, Sarah, I believe we're all on a spiritual journey. I don't know if you embrace that or not, but I believe we're all on a
I
spiritual
do.
journey. Yeah, and and I appreciate that the community that I'm a part of at Hamlin Church allows me to share that spiritual journey with others who are also on their journey. Um, and it's hard for me to write a Cork O'Connor novel, particularly, but if you were to read my standalones, you'd see this as well, without bringing the spiritual aspect of who we are and our spiritual connection with the larger world, the natural world, the universe. Um, there's this spirit that runs through all of creation, no matter how large or how small, and all of us, every molecule of our being, is a part of that. So, whenever I go out into nature, I feel like I do my best to let go of everything, that all of the noise, all of the distraction, and feel that spiritual connection with the natural world.
Mm.
And then I try to invest my stories with that sense.
And you do it so beautifully. And there's so many moments where we see Cork and your other characters out in the woods. And I also love to watch birds. So there was one scene with an eagle that I really loved, and I have a strong connection to the woods. So I love that part of your writing. Melissa would like to know what inspires and excites you for each next book. Great question, Melissa.
Sure. If you were to read the Cork O'Connor series, if you read a lot of the Cork O'Connor series, you would see that very often there is an issue at the heart of a story that deals significantly with the Native community, difficulties, obstacles, the tragedy of our white relationship with our Indigenous brothers and sisters. So I'll often put an issue that maybe a friend in the Ojibwe community suggested to me, or I've become aware of as a result of my relationship with members of the Ojibwe community. And I'll build the story around that. And that excites me, making the white readership really more broadly aware of all of the issues that arise out of the interface of our cultures. And the other thing that excites me is, I've watched the Cork O'Connor clan grow and age and change across all of the 25 years that I've been writing these stories. And I'm always interested to see who are these people now in this particular story. Who have they become?
Beautifully said, Kent. And Melissa, thank you for the lovely question. Kathy says, speaking of research, how much do you do for each book? Is there a basic amount of hours, or is each one different in the amount of time? Great question, Kathy.
Yeah, every book is different. It depends on the issue that I'm dealing with, or often the technical details that I need to invest in the story. So the next book in the series, I'm already doing the research for it, and I need to know about forensic archaeology and forensic anthropology. I need to know about the very difficult issue of the missing and murdered Indigenous women in our nation and in Canada. And I'm doing an enormous amount of research for that. Not all books require that much research. Some of them, because I have done so much research in terms of the Ojibwe community, I really have to do very little. I can just rely on what I do know for those. When I'm doing a book that's a standalone, for example, very often I'm be dealing with, because they tend to be more historical in nature, I have to do a lot of research in terms of the historical aspects of whatever story I'm creating.
I have been listening to the Missing and Murdered podcast and become aware of just how many Indigenous women and girls are missing, and also how many more are vulnerable to domestic violence and violence of other kinds. And I've recently started donating to some Indigenous women and children protection nonprofits.
Good for you.
In the Midwest and New Mexico, because this is an issue that once you start to really read the statistics are really troubling and quite prevalent. So thank you for addressing this important issue, Ken. Susan says, I love your books. This Tender Land is my favorite, and I recommend it all the time. Susan, tell us why that one is your favorite. What do you love about it?
Well, I have to tell you, Susan, and I'll tell you, Sara, that This Tender Land is also one of my favorites that I've written.
Look at that. You're vibing. What do you love about it, Kent? Why is that your favorite?
It's such a beautiful story of children who have no family, who create family, and the adventures that they have in the summer of 1932 as they make their way through a land beset by the Great Depression.
Susan, thank you for sharing your favorite William Kent Krueger book. So cool to know that the author himself shares your affinity for this particular book child of his. Margaret reminding everyone to get out and vote. Heck yes, those midterms are coming up soon.
You're here.
Susan would like to know, have you ever read American Dirt? It follows a woman and her son escaping Mexico to the U.S. She says it's a suspenseful and heartfelt book, and you see the other side. Kent, your thoughts?
Yeah, I have not read American Dirt myself, but I know I know of the book, and I know of the controversy that book generated when it came out. The whole question of cultural appropriation, which is a question I deal with all the time. I write about the Native community significantly. I have no Native blood in me whatsoever. So yeah, it's an issue I'm very familiar with. It's a book I'm very familiar with.
Margaret is still thinking about the fact that you live 2 blocks from the state fair. I'm still thinking about 12 days and 2 million people.
I know.
Lisa says she's going on Friday. Margaret
Good for you. Good for you.
I know. I'll be queuing up for the food line from William Kent Krueger's church. Kinsey, welcome to the conversation. She says she notices that Fox Creek is written in present tense. Is this your first book in present tense? And how do you decide to do that? And was it difficult at first? Great questions.
Yeah, one of the things that I try to do always in the Cork O'Connor series is something different. I've monkeyed with structure. I've monkeyed with point of view. This time I decided to monkey with the verb tense, and I set the story in present tense. And one of the things I like about it is that present tense is such an immediate way of telling a story. You are right there as it happens. And I found that to be, for this story at any rate, just an incredibly useful suspenseful technique. And no, I didn't find it difficult at all. It was simply that was the way the story spoke to me. And it was easy for me to craft it in present tense.
Ooh, loving this talk on craft. Paul saying, one of my favorite things about these books is it allows me to say hello, thank you, and other basic communications to my high school and college Anishinaabe friend.
There you go. Good.
Right,
that was good.
Okay. Who is learning the language. Oh, Paul, I love that. Thank you for sharing. Margaret would like to know, did Ken ever try out a different genre or a style before hitting on this successful character and series? Yeah. Did you ever think about romance, fantasy? Tell us.
Well, I really set out to be the writer of ghost stories. I was a Boy Scout, and what do you do around a campfire at night? You tell ghost stories. And so I really set out really wanting to be a writer of terrific ghost stories. My father was a high school English teacher, actually. And so for the vast majority of my career before I turned to writing mystery, I was trying to write the great American novel, a la Ernest Hemingway. I went through a midlife crisis in my 40s and thought, the hell with that. I want to write something somebody might actually want to read. And I looked around me to see what people read. You know what everybody reads, Sarah? They read mysteries. It's a genre whose appeal cuts across all socioeconomic levels, all demographics. And so I decided I was going to write a mystery. I settled on my Cork O'Connor character and setting the stories in the Great North Woods and including the Ojibwe as an important element of my work. And I was pretty much off and running.
I love that. And I love mysteries, clearly, and we all do. That's why we're here. Kathy saying that she loves that you put issues of the outside world in your books. Yes.
I got to tell you, Sarah, I don't have a lot of interest in reading a mystery that's simply a mystery, that really doesn't try to do something more with the story. And so, I try to do more things with the story than just create a good mystery. But first and foremost, I try to create a good, compelling mystery.
Well, you certainly have done that over and over and over again, Kent, to a tremendous and well-deserved acclaim and success. Susan, welcome to the conversation. She would like to know, are you going to write another standalone? She loved This Tender Land.
Yeah, Susan, actually, I have completed the next standalone. I'm working on what I believe are the final revisions now. It will be out next fall, a year from now. It's a book called The River We Remember. Oh boy, do I love this book.
What do you love about it, Kent?
Well, it's like Ordinary Grace and This Tender Land. It takes place in southern Minnesota rather than the northern Minnesota of the Cork O'Connor series. And I'm able to feature that beautiful agrarian Midwest feel that southern Minnesota has. It's set in an earlier time, as were Ordinary Grace and This Tender Land, and it is really a straightforward mystery in large respect that deals with a much larger issue, because I can't get away from doing that.
The trademark Kent we love. Susan O'Connor, welcome to the conversation, saying, I loved this Tenderland too. Any stories about brave young people? I was a teacher for 46 years and I loved it. Susan, thank you for shaping the young minds of our next generation for 46 years. We appreciate you and all teachers. Susan Martin saying the young people in coming of age that have courage and persistence. Yes, aren't they amazing? People are quick to criticize the next generation, but there's a lot to admire and love.
I got so many notes from readers of This Tender Land talking about the stories that their parents or their grandparents told them about their youth during the Great Depression and the ingenuity, the difficulties that they had to overcome. And they were just wonderful, heartfelt, sometimes heart-rending stories.
Absolutely. Melissa says, Kent has a very calming and easy to listen to voice. Yeah, I feel like Kent would do a good meditation tape. She'd like to know, do you use your voice in any way professionally? Can we look for you on the Calm app, Kent?
Well, actually, I auditioned to read my my stories for audiobook, and I didn't get the job.
Darn it.
So no, but I love talking to an audience. And my father, the high school English teacher, was not only the English teacher, he was also the speech coach and the drama coach. So I learned very early the importance of and how to use your voice well.
Yes, it is very soothing, Melissa. Thank you for pointing that out. I totally agree. Susan saying, I can't wait for the new standalone. You are my favorite author. Yay, Susan. We're so happy you're here. Debbie, welcome to the conversation, joining us from Arizona. She'd like to know, how do you get to know the Ojibwe and their culture, and did you encounter resistance from them?
Well, I have to admit that when I made my decision to include the Ojibwe as an element of my work, I knew about the Ojibwe, about what every white person knows, which was nothing. But I was a cultural anthropology major in college, and the idea of learning about this culture, not my own, was an exciting prospect. And I began in the way all good academics begin. I began by reading, and during the course of my research, I began to meet members of the Ojibwe community and form relationships that have become important friendships to me over the years. Did I encounter resistance? Certainly. A white guy approaching Native people and being curious about their cultural institutions and beliefs. I had every reason to understand why they might be a little suspect of my motives to begin with. But eventually they understood where I was coming from and have been willing to open up and be very generous in what they share with me.
And Debbie, Kent includes a beautiful acknowledgement and thank you to his friends in the Ojibwe culture in the very beginning of his book, where he honors them and thanks them for their guidance and their wisdom and sharing their knowledge and their culture with him, which is very lovely. And when you read the book, you'll get to see that as well. Y'all, the book is out tomorrow. Kent is joining us for this very special pre-launch event. So don't forget to pre-order the book tonight. Here is the link one more time. So grab it tonight and support our favorite woman-owned bookstore, Murder by the Book. And right here is that link. So no matter where you're watching from, click, order, and then join the Facebook group, free and open to all. And that's where we will continue the conversation about this book. So you'll want to do that as well. We are out of time. Kent, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for giving us the skinny on Fox Creek, sharing your process, sharing a glimpse into your research, your writing, your next book. What a pleasure and an honor to host you. Congratulations on being the most reserved book in libraries across America. What an honor and a credit to your writing. The Library Journal awarding you a starred review saying that, quote, you are one of those rare authors who combines intricately plotted, issue-oriented stories with mysticism and action. A must for fans of beautifully written crime. And that sums it up better than I ever could. So thank you for joining us. Thank you to all of you for spending your Mystery Monday with us. Kathy saying thank you. Margaret saying thank you. So many saying thank you. Thank you for all the hearts and love up on Facebook. William Ken Krueger, I hope you'll come back and join us when your next book is out. Thank you very much, and happy Pub Day tomorrow. Have a great night, y'all.
Thank you so much.
I've got Karen Slaughter next week. Don't miss it.
All right.
Good night.